It is 13 degrees Fahrenheit. That is minus 10 degrees below 0 Celsius. So it's 10 below 0 Celsius right now. 10.55 degrees below 0. And it's 13 degrees above 0 Fahrenheit. Anyway, this is how it all becomes desert. We have been getting no rain. It's winter time. Nothing grows. It's all just dormant. It's very cold. My washing machine is frozen. And the drain is frozen because the ground is frozen. My bath drain is frozen. Anyway, this is what I want to show you. As cold as it is, look at this. Stiffly frozen elephant garlic. It is doing just fine. And even though it's the only thing green around, the horses aren't eating it. Nothing's eating it. So it's safe to plant in your pastures. Look at that. All that elephant garlic just lying there, waiting for it to warm up a bit, and it'll actually grow. Can you believe that? Elephant garlic can be planted in your pasture in Zone 7B. Actually, I'm Zone 7. Yeah, I'm 7, not 7B. They've changed it. Or the map I looked at was different. Anyway, here's some things I wanted to show you. In the wintertime, we have a vegetarian rodent, and it's called a vole, one of the prime food sources of the coyote and the owl. And they will eat the bark right off of your trees. So what you do, it's very simple. You just wrap some heavy-duty aluminum foil around them. And that works. Unfortunately, this is lightweight aluminum foil. I already had it around. Then I used it, and it's not going to work. But they seem to be leaving them alone, so I'm going to leave that alone because I don't like to use aluminum foil. It's bad for the environment. They won't even take it at the aluminum recycling place. I'd like to know why. If anybody could tell me in the comments. I could probably look it up. I should. Anyway, this is a Celeste fig. And I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and just cut it off and graft it when spring comes to a fig that can tolerate bearing fruit on brand new growth. Because a Celeste can only bear fruit on old wood from last year. And with it right now being 13 degrees and we had 8 degrees last night, Fahrenheit, we're probably not, well, I mean, night before last we had 8 degrees. So we're probably not going to have any top growth. This whole tree is going to die down to the ground and have to start over again. I'm not really sure. It hasn't thawed yet, but I'm real worried about my muscadines too. You see this scar tissue right here? This is because a few years ago it got below 0. It got below 0 and it killed it, but this one survived and came back. It was able to make it. But what the cold does to a muscadine is it literally splits the bark and sap oozes out as soon as it thaws. So I don't know how this one's going to fare, but a lot of them didn't fare well. So anyway, this is what it looks like when it's morning and it's very cold. So this is why I recommend that you grow elephant garlic and probably any other garlics, but I don't know that. But elephant garlic is a great plant because during the wintertime, what else are you going to grow? You know, it's nothing out there. I mean, all the wild weeds even are dead. There's nothing. But the elephant garlic is just ticking away, making food. And as soon as it gets warm enough to plant everything else, and it's well on its way, I can dig that up because all those green leaves are going to die back. It's going to have a flower head, and the flower head will signal to me that it's time to dig it up as soon as the flower head starts to fade. So that's what that is. One of the best things I can plant. And you plant it in the winter. And there's no way you can plant it any other time of the year, because if you try planting elephant garlic, it'll just sleep. If you plant it in the summer or the spring, it just sleeps. You plant it in the fall or in midwinter. And here's something I wanted to show you that you need to do with it. You need to find the clumps that you've missed, because you're always going to miss some. You're always going to miss some. Like right here, this is a clump I missed. So when it warms up enough, and I can't do it now, the ground is so hard, there's no way. And it might not be good for it to get its roots exposed to the cold. But you take a nice straight shovel and you pull it out, and you separate all these, and you plant them all in a nice little row. I'll show you what I did over here. You take the clumps you miss, and you just set them in rows like this. And each one of these is going to make a nice big garlic head. So it's a great thing. I mean, I don't water it. I don't have to do anything. It literally survives some of the driest weather. It's really great. So that's what you do with it. And this plant is called frostweed. And the reason is, for some reason, it's one of the only weeds that actually makes hoarfrost at its base continuously. See, there's some hoarfrost. That's called hoarfrost. And the plant makes it when it's cold. And here's some bracket fungus growing on a log that got blown over in a storm. This is a hackberry tree. And see, all the water's froze solid. Everything in the creek is froze solid. I can walk all over that. Well, it gets pretty cold here. But at the same time, winter solstice is over. So now you notice the peach tree buds are starting to bear out. But where I live, even though I can grow the trees, and they make good flowers for my honeybees and other pollinating insects, the fruit will literally get rot all over it. So it can't be grown here, peaches. There's just too much humidity in the air for them, and they just rot away before they ripen. They'll look so good, and then right when they get about to the point where they start to blush, they're just rotten. One of the best things for wildlife is, you can see the green out there, that's a plant called privet, and they use it for hedges. It trims up real nicely. All the herbivorous animals eat it. Everything loves it. The beavers love it, the deer, turkeys, anything that really likes anything green will eat it. And especially livestock like horses and goats and things like that. Anyway, here's a muscadine vineyard, and I'm real worried about it. I won't know until it thaws, and it hasn't had anything above freezing point, which is 0 Celsius. We haven't had anything above freezing for many, many days. So I'm not really sure if these are live or not. I mean, you never know. I'm hoping they're going to make it. But once it thaws, if I start seeing sap oozing out of the bark, I know it's gone, because that's how it does it. But there's some things that can really tolerate this, like the English walnuts there. That tree's an English walnut. It'll make anything. It doesn't mind cold weather. And here's what hogs do. Wild hogs, they work the soil. They bring up the lower subsoils, and they bring them to the top. They kind of work the soil and make different kinds of plants grow that wouldn't grow otherwise. And plus, these bowl-like depressions kind of catch water, so it all doesn't run down the hill there into the slough. Man, it is so cold. I didn't wear my warm clothes. Anyway, I just wanted to make a little video this morning to show you how cold it can get and what everything looks like when winter comes. Now, that beautiful green you see right there, one of the rarest things that there is around here, that's bamboo. And bamboo, it's just a giant grass. Just like your grass in your lawn. It's just huge, and everything that eats grass will eat it. It's really good. You can even use it for tea and get the benefits of wheatgrass. And it's really, honestly, one of the most useful plants in the world. And it's maintenance free. At least where I live it is. And this particular variety is one of the rarest of them for surviving very cold temperatures. This particular variety is called Yellow Groove. And the reason it's called Yellow Groove is for the simple reason it has a yellow groove in the trunk. And it gets really large. And even though it's wintertime, its leaves are still green. This is amazing. Here it is, 13 degrees Fahrenheit. 10 below 0 Celsius, and it's still pretty and green, and it's food for animals, which would be starving right now with nothing out there. Here's my goats messing with my dog. Leave them alone. Leave Luke alone, Piper. She's always showing off. Yeah, you're spoiled rotten. Spoiled rotten. Anyway, look at that. Only thing green out here, and she's going for it. They had a really bad deer season this year. They shot almost all my deer, so there's not many left, and we got plenty of stuff out here that they would normally be eating. But they're wiping our deer out. They got this crazy idea that because deer naturally have a disease that keeps them from ever getting large herds like bison would be getting, called CWD, they think they can just shoot them all out and the CWD is going to disappear. But in reality, they're just going to shoot all the healthy ones that would have immunity to the CWD and leave the weak, and then the herd will even be smaller. Hunting does not have any advantages to the wildlife whatsoever. Nature has its own checks and balances. You can't, kill nature and make it better. That's ridiculous. Anyway, gotta show you some more stuff. Show you what the creek looks like. I can get through the bamboo. And I just love this bamboo. It sure feels a lot more comfortable inside the bamboo than outside the bamboo. Look out, Piper. Out of the way. Thanks. Yeah, our whole creek's flooded. I mean, not flooded. Frozen with ice. It's just a big sheen of ice all the way over it. We're having a drought, so it would normally be a lot more full and there'd be a bunch of water flowing, but now it's lower than normal. Yeah, the whole thing is frozen. Frozen over. We're pretty far south too. We're about the same lateral line as California and North Carolina, but meanwhile we're a heck of a lot colder, and we're not even 500 feet in sea level, but we still get really cold where we're at. It's a weird place. It's extremes in temperature. Over 100 degrees every summer, and always 8 degrees every winter. So we have, my goodness, I didn't even think that much, but we've got a 92 degree difference every year that the plants have to be able to tolerate to be perennial here. Pretty cool. And this is how I do my asparagus. When I plant it, I don't plant it real deep like they tell you to do. I just plant it near the surface and just start covering it with things so that the horses don't bother it. And this is my asparagus bed right here in winter. I got bamboo laid over it so the horses don't trample it. And then by the time spring gets here, it'll be sending up some shoots. See, this is an asparagus plant after it dries up in the winter time. And this is it. It's my asparagus bed. Well, most of these are pear trees. And some other kind. Here's my salt lick. That's for the animals, for all of them. Everybody has that. And let's see what else we got over here. The bad part is I can't grow anything in the wintertime. I can't play in my garden. The ground's too hard. And I wish I lived in the tropics. People are so lucky to be able to grow things that taste so good, like avocados and oranges and other citruses, things like that. Man, and be able to grow all year round. Don't have to go through this. See, here we have two problems. Winter prevents anything from growing. And look at my garden. It's just devastated in the winter. This is my garden. I have this fence so my goats stay out, but it doesn't keep other animals from getting in. I don't mind. The deer don't do anything to me. But anyway, my garden is just dead, see? But things are there, hiding. I can see them. There's little seedlings that are just sleeping, that are really tolerant of this. And shallots are growing under the ground, waiting. But I'm kind of worried they might not have made this extreme cold. I tried to cover them up with manure. Don't know if I did enough. Put that out and it worked. Trellises are a good thing to put up. They save you a lot of garden space. There's a small seeded favas survived so far. That's amazing. I don't really know, but it looks like my shallots are doing okay. And of course, some of the garlic I put in the garden is doing fine. And I covered my strawberries with horse manure, because I have horses, so it's easy to get. Hoping that that will be completely broke down by springtime, and there will be protection from this extremely cold weather. Might really destroy them. And you see what I do. This is a root stout garden. I just pull my weeds and leave them lay, and often just use a scuffle hoe, also known as a stirrup hoe, and just do the top of the ground with that. But I try not to disturb the soil layer, and I'll leave it like it is. And all these weeds that you see clumped up like this is from my dry season I had. All the bean plants and stuff, that's the grayish colored ones. And a lot of these are just plain and simply, I let the weeds get too tall. It was in the hundreds for almost a month, and maybe even a whole month. And every time you go out there, you just can't hardly walk. It's so hot and humid. So you say, man, I got to get back in the air conditioning. Well, you don't, I do. So I didn't want to pull weeds. It wasn't raining anyway, and when I pulled the weeds around the plants, they wilted and sometimes even died, so I figured I better just leave well enough alone, and it worked. Most of my things survived, and now I have a whole bunch of good, healthy biomass to rot back down over the wintertime. I'll keep after it better when spring comes, but this stuff will be broke down really good by springtime, and I can use it around my plants. And I'll just move these clumps around and plant under them, and there's a lot of earthworms under there. I'm sure the soil is considerably warmer underneath every one of these weed clumps. And you will see this now, but you're not going to believe it. In 3 or 4 months, it's going to be green and lush and full of food, surprisingly enough. And this pasture is going to be loaded in clover and grasses and legumes and broadleafs, and there's going to be so much to eat out here for everything. And this is Huzu bamboo, and I see a moisture barrier coming out right here. All this right here may mean that it got extreme damage. It's still too early to tell. But this is one giant timber bamboo. I sure hope it made it. It's my girlfriend's favorite bamboo. And here's my frozen pond. But see, the horses, they take their little feet and they smash the ice, and they drink anyway. And if they don't, I'll have to get a sledge and bust it up, which I might have to do. It's looking like it. It's supposed to thaw out today, get up above freezing for a few degrees, I hope. That'll help, because I got to do laundry and my drain pipe is solid frozen. This is what pears look like. I don't even bother to prune my pears, and they bear every year. And this is an Asian pear, and they sell these pears at the store for $2 a piece. They wrap them up in like a little nylon wrapper that looks like mesh, $2 a piece, can you believe it? And they grow really, really well. I never have to spray them. I don't do anything to them at all. I just leave them alone. I don't even prune them. They grow awesome. I can't believe it. Got several of those. And these pecans, some of them have small nuts because I planted some of them from seeds. So I'll have to graft them when spring comes. I've already collected the scions of larger nuts to graft to them. I might make a video on that, but it's kind of very important for me to do that, and I don't want to have to do it with one hand, and that won't work out. I'm not very good at doing videos, as you can see. And as you see, this over here is a ladder that people use to murder animals with, and my girlfriend gave me that, and they left it on their land. Some people did, and when they moved on and died, she said, take that. Anyway, on the top of that you'll see is a honeybee nuke, a small beehive, and I catch swarms in there every single year, because when my bees swarm, they fly out this direction. This is southwest of my beehives, and the swarms seem to like to go this direction and like to be high up, so they go in there and they get caught. They make a new home in there, and then I simply carry it 3 miles away, put them in a bigger hive, and then bring them back home in 2 weeks to my spot where I want them. So that's how you catch these. And that's a big sycamore tree up there, and that was a beautiful mountain. It was filled with beautiful wildlife and hardwood trees. And then they logged it all off. They sprayed herbicide all over it and killed everything they could that would possibly die, and then they planted those GMO pine trees, and now we've got only pine trees up there and nothing living under them, just pine. And that kind of pine there, it won't even make firewood, believe it or not. It won't burn. You get it hot enough, it'll smoke and smoke and smoke, but it is not going to burn. People can't use this kind of pine for firewood. Everywhere else I've lived, pine burns nice, hot and fast, but here it's hard to even get the piles of tops burned up. It's interesting how it is. A different kind of pine though. It's Arkansas shortleaf pine, and it does not burn very well. Nobody around here uses it for firewood. Okay, my video's been long-winded. Sorry about that. Let me turn this off.